Few topics evoke as much curiosity as what happens after death for those who have lived for decades, seen friends depart, and begun to feel their bodies weaken. This question becomes almost more intimate and personal. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, who revealed the mysteries of the soul, left impressive recordings of what he claimed to have seen on the other side. In a rare film footage, forgotten for years, he speaks calmly about what human consciousness encounters when it detaches from the body. This content, kept secret for a long time, has recently been transcribed by scholars. It is direct, simple, and surprisingly clear. According to him, death is not the end, but a conscious transition. Moreover, it is experienced with clarity. For those who fear that moment, these revelations offer not only answers, but also a peace that is hard to explain, a peace that only those approaching that instant can truly understand. Cayce's words were not meant to shock, but to guide. He believed that the fear of death stemmed from ignorance, and therefore he insisted that knowing what awaits us can radically change how we live our final years. In an excerpt recovered from the interview, he describes in detail what happens in the first moments after crossing over. According to him, the spirit gently detaches from the body, like awakening from a deep sleep. There is no pain or confusion, only a clear perception of still being alive, but in another dimension. Many elderly people who have heard this testimony said they immediately felt relief. If this video brings you comfort or reflection, consider supporting it with a like or subscribing for more similar content. Sometimes a simple piece of information can calm years of silent doubt. According to Cayce, every soul conducts a kind of life review, but without judgment in the traditional sense. He describes a journey of consciousness in a few seconds through the most significant moments, not to be punished, but to understand the pain caused and the love given, returning as pure sensations without excuses or masks. This process would not be imposed by a higher entity, but guided by the soul itself, which wants to understand its own path. This idea opposes the fear of eternal punishment that many religions have imposed over the centuries. For Cayce, there are no fixed paradises or hells. There are states of consciousness created by actions, emotions, and intentions, and all of this changes everything. It changes how we see mistakes and also how we choose our next steps while still alive. In sharing these experiences, Cayce did not promise an absolute paradise nor threaten with punishments, but shared what he saw during his trance states. One of the most moving details concerns reunion. He stated that, after detachment from the body, many souls are greeted by loved ones who have already passed. The encounter is silent, but the deep understanding occurs through feelings, not physical appearance. Parents, siblings, friends, even past loves seem to wait for us as if they had been there forever. This, according to Cayce, helps souls not to get lost in this new space. For many elderly who have already lost nearly all their loved ones, this image is particularly powerful. The idea that no one leaves alone, that there is a hug waiting on the other side, completely transforms the fear of the end into a new anticipation. Another important point from the interview concerns the perception of time on the spiritual plane. Cayce said that, on the other side, time does not follow the same logic. 1 second can seem like eternity, while years can pass in the blink of an eye. This is because the dimension moves by intention, not by clock. This absence of time as we know it helps to understand why some spiritual presences seem so immediate, even decades after departure. The spirit, he affirmed, continues to learn, grow, and often help those who remain. Often, when we think of a loved one who has left us and feel a sudden warmth in the chest, it is not just nostalgia. It could be their subtle and discreet presence, trying to comfort us. For those approaching the end of their journey, this awareness can bring a hope that is difficult to describe, but easy to feel. Cayce also emphasized the importance of inner preparation, not in the traditional religious sense, but by cultivating peace, gratitude, and awareness. For him, the soul carries with it the vibrations of what it has experienced, not what it has accumulated, not titles or possessions, but emotions and sensations left to others. He insisted that the moment of passing should not be an incident of nature, but an act of dignity and consciousness. Therefore, he recommended reviewing one's life with sincerity and serenity, asking for forgiveness, forgiving, giving thanks, and releasing what weighed us down. Not to please a celestial judge, but to lighten the soul. Because, he said, everything unresolved here is carried with us, and in the spiritual world, this burden does not disappear. It becomes more visible. Those who understand this truth in advance leave lighter, and their next path will be better. A curiosity from the interview concerns those who deny any possibility of life beyond death. Cayce said that in facing this reality, confused souls may take some time to understand. They do not suffer, but it takes longer to realize that they are no longer trapped in the physical body. In these cases, spiritual guides and family members gently step forward, helping the soul to orient itself. This demonstrates that it is not a matter of faith, but of inner reality. Believing or not does not change the process, but it can influence the experience. For this reason, Cayce encouraged talking about it naturally, especially with the elderly, because in his view, understanding the transition allows for a better living of the present, with less fear, less resistance, and more clarity. In his opinion, a more mature soul faces the passage with greater ease, and this maturity comes from accepting life as it is. Another aspect frequently mentioned by Cayce was the continuity of bonds. He rejected the idea that death interrupts everything. In his view, true love creates permanent bridges between planes. This does not mean that those who have passed remain trapped here, but that there are channels of communication when there is willingness, sincere thoughts, silent prayers, or intense memories. He recounted spirits who appear to console, offer insights, or simply make their presence felt for those who remain. For those who carry guilt, regret, or nostalgia in their hearts, this possibility offers a comforting perspective. It is fundamental. Love can still be expressed, forgiveness asked for, or gratitude given, even after death. This brings great peace and transforms the way we live our remaining days with more truth, presence, and meaning. Cayce was also clear in saying that no one is abandoned. Even those who have lived harshly, made mistakes, or distanced themselves are embraced. His view is that the soul is not judged according to human rules, but understood in its entirety. Every pain, choice, and regret is analyzed with compassion. He believed that making mistakes is part of spiritual learning and that the soul is guided to review its own path, deciding what still needs to be faced in the future. For Cayce, this idea of reincarnation is not a punishment, but a second chance, or as many as necessary. For elders who think there is no more time to change, this is a powerful truth. The soul is not bound by the body's time, but continues to learn, evolve, and even after the last breath, to progress on a journey of growth, clarity, and new beginnings. Cayce described these new stages as simple yet profound. After passing, the soul spends time in a learning plane where it reviews choices made, understands the effects of actions, and prepares for the next step. There is no rush and no imposition. The spirit moves at its own pace. Some stay longer in this reflection phase. Others move forward more quickly. Cayce compared everything to a spiritual school where each follows its own cycle. For many elders accustomed to a life of duties, deadlines, and fears, this idea brings relief. It reminds us that there is time, that no one is forced, and that everything proceeds with respect and purpose. It is a message that invites us to use our remaining days to cultivate this awareness, to look inward, and to start this school while still alive. According to Cayce, the more aware we are now, the more smoothly the passage will be. Another fundamental aspect is the importance of small gestures. Cayce said that simple acts like apologizing, a kindness, or a sincere word have a great impact on the soul's journey. Many believe that only grand deeds or religious rituals are important, but in reality, what matters most is the intention behind every action. The soul perceives emotions, not appearances. This teaching has immense value for those approaching the end of life. It shows that it's never too late to do something truly meaningful. A phone call, a hug, a note can change an entire chapter. Cayce said that these decisions do not die with the body, but travel with the soul, lightening its burden and illuminating its conscience. Every act of truth, even the smallest, has the power to transform the afterlife. In many parts of his interviews, Cayce emphasized that life after death is not a matter of belief, but of experience. Just as we do not need to believe in the wind to feel it, we do not need to understand everything to go through the transition. What makes the difference is how we live now. And for this reason, he believed that cultivating serenity, honesty, and love truly prepares us. He offered no magic formulas, nor did he guarantee a pain-free path. He simply shared what he saw, a journey that continues with new possibilities, even for elders who feel time slipping away faster. This vision can serve as an invitation to pause, breathe, reflect, let go of fear, and embrace the idea that the soul continues and that every sincere choice builds a bridge to what comes after, not as an end, but as the next chapter. During the interview, Cayce pointed out that how we face death reflects how we live. Those who have lived harshly often fear the moment of departure, while those who have learned to forgive, laugh at their mistakes, and value simplicity tend to face this phase with greater serenity. He said it's not about religion, but awareness. When the soul leaves the body, it carries with it what it has built. That's why caring for our inner world is so important. We cannot go back in the past, but we can change how we face it now. For elders, this message is powerful. It reminds us that there is still time to settle unresolved issues, forgive, reconcile with pain, and find meaning even in the hardest experiences. Because everything understood with love turns into light on the soul's path. Cayce often spoke of the difference between attachment and love. He explained that attachment binds, while love frees. Often, clinging too much to those who have passed or to past things creates barriers that hinder our spiritual growth. For him, honoring someone does not mean trapping them in the pain of loss, but remembering them with gratitude, moving forward, and living meaningfully. This is especially important for those who have lost partners, children, or siblings. It helps transform pain into a loving presence, and understand that communication is still possible when there is the right attitude, a sincere thought, a silent prayer, or a strong memory. All of this can be a channel of contact. Cayce spoke of spirits who come to console, offer insights, or simply make themselves felt. For those carrying guilt, regret, or nostalgia, this possibility is essential. Love can still be expressed, forgiveness asked, gratitude given. And all of this brings great peace, changing the way we live our remaining days, with more truth, presence, and meaning. Cayce was also clear in saying that no one is abandoned. Even those who have lived difficult lives, made mistakes, or distanced themselves are embraced. His view is that the soul is not judged by human rules, but understood in its entirety. Every pain, choice, and regret is examined with compassion. He believed that mistakes are part of spiritual learning and that the soul is guided to review its path, deciding what still needs to be faced. This idea of reincarnation for Cayce is not a punishment, but a second chance, or as many as necessary. For elders who think there is no more time, this is a powerful truth. The soul is not bound by the body's time, but continues to learn, evolve, and even after the last breath, to continue a journey of growth, clarity, and new beginnings. Meditation and solitary reflection, he said, deepen our relationship with inner silence, making it easier to understand the mysteries of the soul. This idea may seem simple, but has a great impact, especially for those in a phase of greater introspection. For many elders, silence is part of daily life and, if lived consciously, can become a space for encountering what is deepest within us. Cayce did not preach absolute truths. He offered keys, and the most powerful among these was this: those who learn to be at peace with their own silence walk confidently toward what is to come. In the last years of his life, Cayce did not shy away from the revelations he made, even if some criticized him. He remained firm in his mission to transmit what he believed useful for the evolution of the soul. He said that truth, when it arrives, needs no defense. It simply exists. Therefore, he did not give fiery speeches or try to persuade others. He humbly and respectfully shared what he saw. Today, decades later, his words continue to resonate, especially among those who already feel the approach of departure. Not because they offer definitive answers, but because they open a space for a new way of facing the end. For those who have lived a lot, seen the world change 1,000 times, lost and won, loosened and retightened knots, perhaps all they desire at the end is this small truth spoken with respect. And that is what Cayce offered: not promises, but perspectives; not dogmas, but possible paths. Concluding this long-forgotten interview, Cayce affirmed that nothing is more liberating than understanding that the soul is eternal. This phrase, spoken with serenity, continues to resonate among those seeking comfort in the face of the inevitable. He did not mean that people should see death with joy, but with understanding, less fear, more acceptance. For elders carrying the weight of a whole life, perhaps this is the final lesson. It is not necessary to have all the answers. It is enough to be at peace with the questions and trust that the journey does not end here. With each new day, the soul prepares, learns, and strengthens, and when the moment comes to depart, it does not go alone, nor does it get lost. It continues, supported by everything built with love. If this message has touched you in any way, consider sharing it with someone who needs it, and if you wish, subscribe to continue following content that respects your own path. There is something profoundly human in wanting to understand where we go after everything ends here, and perhaps That is why Cayce's words continue to cross generations. He did not offer an off-the-shelf paradise, nor describe eternal punishments. He spoke only of a continuity in which each soul continues to evolve, learn, and reunite with those it loved. This alone is enough to change how we see life. For those approaching the end, this understanding can bring serenity, and for those with time still ahead, it can be an invitation to transform, to live with more truth, more affection, more listening. Because ultimately, as Cayce reminds us, the end of life does not have to be a moment of anguish, but a passage of meaning. No one should face it alone. There is always a presence, a memory, a love waiting for us on the other side. With the same gentleness as when we say goodbye from here, those who have already sensed the presence of a loved one after they have departed know that there is something beyond what the eyes see. Cayce only confirmed what many already sensed. The bond between souls does not dissolve with death, but transforms, strengthens through desire, and lights up through gratitude. Elders, with their accumulated wisdom, understand this better than anyone because they have already experienced separations, farewells, and silences that only time can interpret. His message does not serve as empty consolation, but as a bridge between reason and hope. He did not romanticize death nor fear it. He saw it as a natural part of the cycle of life. And by sharing his visions, he left something precious, the possibility of looking at the end with less fear and more respect. Every thought of his seems to remind us that dying does not mean disappearing, but continuing. And continuing with dignity is what we all deserve. If this video has inspired reflection, peace, or curiosity in you, consider leaving a comment with your experience or thoughts on the subject. Your story can inspire others. And if you feel that this type of content resonates with your path, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving videos that treat the soul with the respect it deserves. Cayce's message is clear. Death is not an abyss, but a bridge, and each of us will cross it at the right time, in our own way, carrying what we have loved. May we walk with lightness, and when the time comes, recognize in the silence the embrace of those waiting for us. Because, according to Cayce, no one departs alone, no one gets lost, and the true love we build here guides us toward where we will go one day. Thank you from Infinite Return.